Right, a very good evening everybody and happy Friday. Been a hell of a long week. NPC12, good to see you again. Thanks for showing up. I hope everybody's Friday is coming to wind down now, so everybody can start enjoying their weekends. Got a big weekend ahead of myself, so I'm looking forward to enjoying that as much as I can. Hi Tansy, thank you for showing up. So, we're going to get started now in just a second. This is going to follow the typical format of my other streams. I'm going to start by going over my latest video. And then I'm going to cover some topics regarding 6.4 and some of the new plots, plot points, plot holes, and also some controversial topics that people have been bringing up regarding the patch and patches in general. So yeah, there's a fair amount to talk about, and I'm also looking forward to getting your feedback on a bunch of things and also your questions, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them as best I can. Pizza, milkshake and lore. Gonna be a great evening. I envy you. I really should have ordered pizza. I'm regretting that now, and with the heat outside, a milkshake does sound very tempting. Although I did have a Mars ice cream today, and that was so good. I haven't had a Mars ice cream in so long, and with the sun today, it was definitely good. I enjoyed that. I'll probably have to buy some more of those. Okay, so as you can see where I am right now, I am in, I think it's called Nal's Offering, or Nal's Reflection, sorry. So this is the setting for a lot of the later Black Mage quests that we get involved in, particularly the ones regarding Shatoto, but also some of the other ones before that. So it all revolves around the Nal statue here and the urn slash goblet. I mean, they call it a goblet. It doesn't look like a goblet to me. It's more like an urn, because I think a goblet is supposed to have a base, and this doesn't have a base. So yeah, I'm getting off track. The point of it is, this is the very same goblet slash urn that Shatoto's memories were stored in. And the idea of memory storage has come up a lot recently in the main story and in the side story. So it's actually quite fitting that I'm actually covering this video today, given all we've actually looked into in Pandemonium. So it just goes to show that the ability to store one's memories for the future comes in a lot of different methods and a lot of shapes and forms. Shatoto, I'm not sure if she actually did it herself or if she based it on the works of previous mages. I'm gonna assume it's the latter. I'm assuming she found some information regarding how to store your memories, and it was done that way. Probably a leftover of the Allegan Empire. But the point is, she did it, and then she skipped forward. Nice big time skip for her into the far future. Hello from the middle of nowhere, Washington. I hope you are in good health and high spirits. Willsworth, thank you very much for that. And I hope you're having a great Friday as well. Yogurt parfait on work break here. A yogurt on a break is a very good thing. Like when you're just taking a few minutes to yourself, a yogurt is usually something very good. So enjoy it while you have it before it melts. So the subject of the video that I did was Shatoto and the birth of black magic. So it went over the origins of Shatoto herself, or as much as we knew about it. Also some of the origins of the black mage itself. Did they fully explain if memories equal soul or not? They don't, because it's only really been touched upon in that one time we were sitting in a Charlian classroom and they told us about the different forms of Aether in concerns of memories and soul and body and soul, essentially. So, and we also learned in the Pandemonium raid storyline that another person's soul can have a totally different person's memories wrote upon them, and then that person will become those memories, which was interesting. Athena managed to do that, which was rather interesting. But it just goes to show that there is a disconnect between soul and memory, and they're not mutually exclusive, but one can actually overwrite the other. And we've been seeing it a lot. Memory has become a focal point of the story for the last couple of years. Memory keeps popping up multiple times in terms of manipulated memory, lost memory, regained memory. But yeah, the video itself, I plan to actually do, like, if some people remember, I did the class lore series a couple of years ago, where I went over all the classes of FF14, their origins, and a few bits of lore about them, a few interesting bits and bobs. I plan to do that with the jobs, but then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a little spin and do it a little differently. So I'm focusing primarily on the origins of the jobs. Right now I'm focusing on very specific jobs right now. So I've already covered Shetoto and Black Magic. I plan to do the others coming forward. So the likes of White Magic, Fairy Magic, Red Magic, or is it called Red Magic? Yeah, it's called Red Magic, I think. Yeah, I'll find that out. Red Mage is a bit of a... I still need to do research on it. I've been primarily researching White and Black Magic, and also Void Magic, which is also another thing. But yeah, the Black Mage has always been a favorite of mine when it comes to lore. It's always been one of the more fleshed out when it comes to lore as well. Like, the other jobs all get their proper lore in place, but the Black Mage to me just feels more full. Primarily because we met Shetoto, the author and the creator of the art itself. So that just made the art just feel more grounded to me. It's called Red Magic. Thank you very much. I really need to actually brush up on my Red Magic. And a few people have been asking about that as well, so I think that should come sooner rather than later. But I have so many topics that I want to actually cover, and I'm in the middle of scripting my next video right now. I'm still fleshing it out, but I'm still just trying to get to grips with all the details. They pull their own Aether. Yeah, that's correct. Like, instead of a Black Mage who would... Well, a Black Mage is depleting their own Aether and replenishing it from the environment. They have to maintain a subtle balance as well. Black Mages are constantly living on the edge. They're depleting their own Aether and absorbing new Aether from the environment, but they have to do it very carefully, because one misstep, they could actually knock themselves out by not casting a spell correctly. And Thaumaturges actually have to do the same thing, because Thaumaturges are using their own Aether and then replenishing it in the same way. But there's not much of a risk to them, because their spells are not nearly as potent as that of a Black Mage. So Black Mages and lore need to be very careful when casting a spell like Flare, because if they do it wrong and they deplete their own Aether to a point where they pass out, they could easily kill themselves in the process. There's many magical arts in FF14 that if you use them incorrectly, they'll easily kill you. So it just adds to the appeal of Black Mage to me. The fact that they live on a knife's edge constantly is something interesting. It's not safe. That's part why they have the melee skills as well, if I recall. Oh, you're talking about Red Mage, I'm assuming. It's called Red Magic, though it uses Ver as a prefix referring to both Vermilion, Sid Red, and Wyrm, meaning true. You seem to know a lot about their lore. I look forward to actually learning more about them. The other Thaumaturges that were burning themselves out in the job quests confused me. Which quest was that? The other Thaumaturges that burned... I'm assuming you're talking about the brothers. They were tiring themselves out when they were fighting a Void Send. I do recall that quest. It's been a long time since I've seen that quest. But yeah, that's partly the same thing. Thaumaturges, they're not as big of a risk, but they also do live upon the same lines. So they are at risk to themselves if they do it incorrectly constantly. But not as much as a Black Mage. Which is why only certain people get to become a Black Mage. But it's also one of the reasons that the art is fully forbidden, even today. If you recall from the Black Mage quests, the last one, where Lalai got permission to store knowledge about the Black Mage within the archives, within the Thaumaturges Guild. Only she was able to administer them, but nobody else was able to access those archives. Those archives were put there for one reason, so that the knowledge would be retained and preserved for future generations. It doesn't mean that it's going to be put on a shelf for a thaumaturge to grab and just go, I'm going to learn how to be a black mage now. It doesn't work like that. Not everybody who learns to be a thaumaturge can be a black mage. It's neat because you use Flare as a thaumaturge, you would burn out all your MP regardless of your level. Yeah, and a thaumaturge wouldn't have the discipline to be able to regain it, which is interesting. They'd kill themselves in the process. But it all revolves around our particular soul crystal, the soul of the black mage. Upon the surface of this multi-aspected crystal are carved a myriad deeds of black mages from eras past. This description doesn't change depending on the crystal. Like, the one that does change is the machinist one because it's brand new. But I don't think they're actually carved on the top of it because it is a tiny crystal. Unless they're looking at a microscopic level of actual writing on it. I think it's actually, what they're meaning is, it's carved into its aether, because these crystals still contain a lot of aether. So, merely picking it up, you'll just go, oh my god, this thing is like brimming with energy. But I think the deeds and skills of black mages past are just, they're carved into the aether of the actual crystal itself. It's memory. So these are still memory stores. It's all stored within the crystal. And they unlock themselves as the black mage actually gains in power. It's an in-game mechanic that works with lore, and that's cool. Yes, it is. And blue, of course. Blue is very interesting as well. I look forward to learning more about blue once we get to the new world. Yeah, the blue mage is fairly similar. I think I have the... Or, yeah, they have a crystal, don't they? Or did they? Wait, does blue have... Yeah, it does. Unlike other soul crystals, the surface's multi-aspected stone has yet to be carved with the record of past deeds. So our crystal is brand new, and the machinist one is the same. But they still say surface. I don't think it's the surface. I mean, it'll probably have scratches and nicks as it's used, but I think it's all to do with the aether. And if you look at, they're all multi-aspected. So multi-aspected crystal, multi-aspected, multi-aspected. I think they're all multi-aspected. Honestly, the fact that it's 100% our own design, that Machinist does all those acrobatics, is part of why it's one of my favorites. That's a good point as well. Like, Machinist is brilliant because it showed us the birth of an actual job art. And it was a conventional way, but also unconventional. Like, we were surprised that people hadn't thought of it sooner. I mean, it was directly inspired by Magitech in order to create a magical art that even somebody with a very low etheric level can wield it, because it's constantly absorbing aether and it's transferring it into electrical charges which create the ammunition or coat the ammunition. So Machinist is a very unique one. The fact that we're just developing those arts from the beginning. So somebody just created this crystal and they're just going, alright, we're not just shooting a gun here, we're doing this, we're spinning around, we're jumping around. I don't know what the inspiration for the jumping and the spinning was. I mean, I know a certain amount of spinning is in Wild Wild West and stuff like that, like, but I think that's something I'll have to look up as well. I just realized, in the Arxarch's time, the Warrior of Light soul crystals must have helped so many in the aftermath. That's a good point if you think about it. Like, what would have happened to our crystals when we died? We're gonna assume, like, that makes you think. We would have died during the during Black Rose. But what would have happened to us? Would we be given a hero's burial? Would it be? It's entirely possible we would have been entombed somewhere. But it's also entirely possible we were just giving a roadside burial because it was utter chaos at that time. I'd say the crystals probably would have been taken off our person, and they probably would have been given to our individual orders and organizations if they even still existed, because nations were probably falling at this point. It's interesting to think about though, what would have happened to our crystals? Who would have been the next person to take up our crystals? Because most classes loosely pull from either an element or an astral umbral. That's correct as well. But yeah, Black Mage is definitely one of my favorites. I've actually modified my glamour as well recently. I used to have my Spriggan jacket. I prefer this. I used to have this. I used to rock this look in a Realm Reborn, or not Realm Reborn, Heavensward. But I really enjoy this look. I think the crazy moves is inspired by how other gutters like Irvine from FF8 and Science from FF13. I don't really remember Saz that much now, to be perfectly honest. I remember Irvine. I remember like shoot, 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 shoot. So that's a good point. Irvine, I'd say, probably would have been one of the main inspirations. By the way he just like puts the gun behind his back and he's like, shoot. Like to show off during special moves. I'm assuming there's some sort of method to the madness, because you're not jumping and spinning for no reason. Like, there's probably, like, is it absorbing the recoil? Because it is a gun. It's firing ammunition. There has to be a recoil of some kind. Or is it a way, because we do note that they curve their bullets. Because you see when they do that, when they're doing in a particular ability, like, they spin their gun like that and they're just spitting out the bullets and then the bullets just all rain out. So they're curving their bullets as well. So I'm assuming that's what the arts are. Like, I'm reminded of a anime called Baki, if anybody's ever watched that. And there's a boxer, Muhammad Ali Jr. And when he's in a boxing match, people are like, you're at a disadvantage because you're only boxing. You're not even using any kicks. And then they realize boxing, or his boxing in particular, actually does have kicks. He's kicking the ground in order to maneuver himself and ground himself for his attacks. And that makes a lot of sense in boxing. So thinking about the machinist in that aspect, it actually does start to make a lot of sense that they would actually do a lot of these maneuvers in order to curve their bullets, in order to make the bullets do what they want them to do instead of just shooting in a straight line. I really think it's just a rule of cool, since playing and firing a gun is very bland compared to the animations of other jobs. Also a fair point. They would have wanted machinists to stand apart, so that's a good way of doing it. Could be absorbing the recoil and generating kinetic energy to convert to data. That's also a possibility. It could also be a way of cooling the gun, because this gun is constantly shooting. You have to cool it down somehow. But yeah, we're talking about machinists now a lot. Suppose I should go back to the Black Mage. The lore of the Black Mage in the modern era is something that's always fascinated me. Primarily because everybody's terrified of it. Like, even now, even though they know Black Mages are a thing, people are still terrified of its potential and what it is. And I always just find it amusing that people are just, they stigmatize it because it's black magic. I mean, but that's the thing I love about FF14. Like, there's black magic, and then there's this polar opposite, which is white magic. But one is neither good nor evil. White magic was used for destructive means just as much as black magic was. So that's what I love about this game. It's never black and white. White magic, black magic, they were used for destruction as much as salvation. Both arts were. And the white mage that we have, to be honest, the one that we use right now, is a shadow of what white mage is in actual lore. It was an art of defense and destruction in lore. That's how Andapur used it. Black Mage is one of the jobs that's illegal inside city states. Technically, according to lore, yes, because the Thaumaturge's Guild refuses to teach the art, and the art is forbidden. Nobody's allowed to take the book off the shelf. Nobody's allowed to learn how to be a Black Mage, because people consider Black Mages to be dangerous, primarily because of all the Black Mages that followed after Shototo created the art and after she passed away. So Black Magic started off as an art of salvation for Mach, because Shototo created it. She wanted to create a spell, all-powerful spell, so she created Flare. and she used Flare to redirect the comet. But then Mac quickly saw that, alright, this is an amazing art, and it did something of that potential. We're going to use it on the battlefield, and that's how Mac was able to achieve great heights, because they had the Black Mage in their arsenal. They trained constant mages in black magic. But after Shototo passed away, even though they still used the school of black magic, they weren't satisfied. So they started branching out into other arts, and that's how void magic was created. So they utilize, it's an offshoot of black magic, the ability of summoning a void scent or a dark creature from another dimension, bringing it to your dimension, enslaving it, and using it for your own ends. That's how Mach fought its war with Andapur and against Nim. In the War of the Magi, the Void Mage led the charge in terms of the destructive. The Black Mages made up a lot of their arsenal, sure, but it's the Void Mages that garnered the bad reputation that Black Mages are known for now. Yeah, the Black Mage is collateral damage of the Void Mage. Like, the Black Mage is stigmatized for a lot of things that were actually Void Mage's fault. Like, if you watch the entire cutscenes with Shototo and all of her dialogue, she is a person who, or her memories are grounded before Void Mages are even a thing. So she didn't even know what Void Mages were. So Void Mages were after her. She was long dead by the time Void Magic was created. So it had nothing to do with her. She is a pure Black Mage in the purest sense. Which is why it was good that we learned from her, because we're learning the proper arts. I mean, sure, the Black Mages that came after her did elevate the art. They evolved it. They added new spells to the repertoire. Brilliant. But at the same time, the Nation of Mac just ruined the Black Mage's image with Void Magic. And that's why it's forbidden today, because Black Mages were the ones that had to use the Void Magic back in the day. I mean, we do know about the Void Mages, but the Void Mages were essentially Black Mages with these extra arts. That's why Black Magic is forbidden today in Ul'dah and all the other nations. And it's a crying shame. But it does add to, it adds to the lore of FF14, but I think by now everybody is softened to Black Magic at this point. Like, people still regard arts that are dangerous as being inherently evil. See, that's the thing about the game. That's the thing I've always noticed about FF14. The storytellers, the developers, they give us a narrative of nothing's ever black and white. Nothing's ever you're good, you're evil. But the NPCs and the characters within the story act like that's the norm. So they believe in good and evil, black magic evil, we don't want, white magic good. Which has always confused me. Because they're trying to push a narrative of the opposite, but the characters are actually speaking the way people speak in our world. Like, people will hear the word witchcraft or Wicca and just go evil, 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 despite the fact that it has genuine roots in history. So regarding Umbral Ice and Umbral Fire or Astral Fire mechanic, it's because to pull from the closest aspect point of Aether, as Ul'dah is always hot and Mac was warm. Interesting. Did we ever see how Justola learned the art? Is that all Ronka being scarily powerful? See, this is where the world really confuses me. How some of these arts ended up being learned in the first. So that was always my question. So let me show you something real quick. So we all know who these people are, right? The Warriors of Darkness. The ones that came to us during Stormblood, or was it midway during Heavensward? Midway during Heavensward, sorry. So we all remember who these characters are. They're based on the original characters from the 2.0 trailer. You have the 5 members of the team all doing their thing, their signature weapons, their signature outfits, their signature look, and their signature races as well. And that's how the Warriors of Darkness were based. But here's the question. You remember how I mentioned that the Stardust Rod was a creation of Shototo? She created the Stardust Rod. Then a number of them were created afterwards, and a number of them survived in the modern era. But look at their Black Mage. He is using a Stardust Rod. So it makes you wonder. I mean, I know they had to show these characters with these weapons or it wouldn't make sense. The Warrior has Bravura. The Black Mage has the Stardust Rods. The Paladin has Cortana, etc, etc. I mean, I get that. But from a lore perspective, you'd be looking at... I think it's Nilbert is his name? Nelbert? You'd be looking at him going, where did he get the Stardust Rod? There's only a couple of answers I could think of. The primary answer I'm thinking of is due to the connections he's had with the Void. It's entirely possible that a Stardust Rod was lost in the Void, or was probably gifted to a particular Void sent caster. And it somehow ended up on the 1st by traveling through the 13th. That's the only explanation I could think of how a weapon like that would have ended up on the 1st, when it was actually created from a stone or a gem that fell upon our world, the source. It's interesting. Shard mirrors the source. It's why I think all shards of Azem look alike. Yeah, that's correct. That's why this looks like that, because the main character is the hero Midlander. It's always been that way. But I always just thought this was rather curious. I mean, I know why it is. Like, I'm not trying to nitpick. I know why he's wielding the Stardust Rod in this, because he had the Stardust Rod in the 2.0 trailer. It would have made no sense for him not to have the Stardust Rod. But just from a lore perspective, when you think about it, you're just going, huh. And then better yet, how did this art end up on the 1st? Black magic was created on the source by Shototo herself. So how's he learning it? This is where you start pulling on the threads of the lore and the whole tapestry starts to unravel. Like, you've suddenly got a hole in your tapestry when you pull this one thread. It could be a parallel evolution of the arts. That's also possible. It could also be Asian influence. That's also another possibility. Although they wouldn't have really tried to spur on the development of resistance unless it actually met their plans, which it did on some of the reflections. I'm certain there's some sect of monks that practice something similar to gun komats on the source. What's gun komats? I'm gonna have to Google that. Gun komats. Was a god of wind and rain and okay, fair enough. But yeah, that's just me nitpicking. It's an example of one of the things I always thought about. That's a good question. Is Nilbert considered a black mage or a void mage? Considering his history and considering his connections, it's fair to call him a void mage, isn't it? So it's entirely possible that due to his connections to the void, he learned black magic from the void itself. Because we do know that black mages did end up in the void as well. A lot of black mages were sacrificed in order to be vessels for void set as well. So it's entirely possible he picked up the arts by a connection to the 13th. I believe it fits with the Shadowbringers role quests. They delve into the history of each Warrior of Darkness. There could be answers there. I've tried to avoid diving into Shadowbringers, primarily because the lore is still largely incomplete. I mean, we only have the in-game stuff, but I prefer to wait for the encyclopedia in order to confirm everything, because I do realize that lore in game and then lore in the encyclopedia. The encyclopedia will confirm a lot of things, and it'll also retcon a lot of things that are actually in game. So, but it is something I'll have to research. But I thought I'd just point that out because it is interesting. The Stardust Rod is definitely a favorite of mine. I do really enjoy that weapon. But I don't think there's much else I need to speak of regarding my latest video. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend that you do. But I suppose we can jump onto some of the other topics that I wanted to cover. Primarily, this is a spoiler warning, by the way. If you haven't done the main quest or the Pandemonium storyline of 6.4, I'm going to be doing some spoilers now. So, spoiler alert. Gunmax is the monk art that Ranjit uses on first. Ranjit was very unique, wasn't he? He was a monk technically, but he used that unique art with that unique beast. So good catch there, Wyvern Lord. He is very unique. I really enjoyed Ranjit's character, particularly his art. The fact that he was so strong was something that was always like, wow, impressive. But yeah, let's move on to a topic of interest. I suppose I should change venues here. So we're heading to, oh no, we're not heading to Old Charlie, we're heading to Aporia. So, with regards to, which one will I cover first? I'll cover Pandemonium first, primarily because it's caused the most controversy. Now, Alliance Raid Series quests are side quests. They're not supposed to directly tie into the overall lore of the main story, but elements of them will find their way into the main story eventually. It's happened with the other Alliance raids as well. The Crystal Tower is a prime example, found its way into the main story a couple of expansions later. But the Pandemonium Raid Series was leading up to something. We didn't realize what it was, but now that we have it, it was a brilliant ending. I really enjoyed the storyline. The fights were amazing. But it also left me scratching my head going, what the hell just happened? Now, I'm saying this for a number of reasons. So let me talk to Claudine first. So, with both the Ethereal Sea and the Heart of Sabri to keep my mind occupied, I feel I should never again lack fascinating discoveries to motivate my work. What do you know of Athena and her connection to Orosite? Yeah, I'll go to that in a minute. There's not really much to say there. I need to open my dialogue. Give me a second here. Let me have a look. So I keep a script, or I keep information from all the quests. So I'm looking for the Pandemonium Raid series. And I'll show you here now in a second. So, close that. Don't need that. Thank you. I'm looking for Heart of Sabik. So, but yeah, if you've already done this storyline, you know that the Heart of Sabik returned into the main, well, it jumped from the main story into the side story, and we learned a lot more lore about it, which I was really happy about. But we also learned a few things about it. I'm looking for a particular quote because I was looking at Reddit as well, and people were like, "What are you on about, Wyrm?" Where is it? It was Claudine. Dang it. Where is it? But yeah, my point I'm trying to make is, at the end of the Pandemonium storyline, Claudine reclaimed the Heart of Sabik, or he was the one that originally claimed it, but he had it, and then he's like, alright, it doesn't have its memories anymore, but it still has its corrupting influence, so we need to look after it. He proceeds to put it in his pocket and walk away. And the moment I watched it, I was on Discord with my FC, and I'm like, what the hell did we just do? That was literally what I said. I was like, what the hell did we just do? When we let Claudine walk away with a live grenade. That's the only thing I can say. Like, what the F just happened? So, I need to find Claudine's dialogue. Give me a second here. So, there's Themis' fight. There's the fight with Athena. So, I'm looking for there. Alright, so, Claudine. Alright, Claudine. There's La Habrea. La Habrea turning into an asshole. I enjoyed that now, to be honest, but I called it. I knew he was going to merge back with his original memories. And he gained his old emotions back. I wasn't really fond of his dialogue with us at the end. Like, look at La Habrea's dialogue here. This was like, you're an asshole, La Habrea. If not for you, my long slumbering demons may have gone unslain. I would have never been forced to reconsider my true nature. Yet, as I said, I do not consider this an admission of debt. Now, I believe you have other places to be. Remain here any longer, and I may be inclined to place you in a cell next to one of our more recalcitrant subjects. I don't know what that word means. But the point is, it's just like, alright, you've done your part. Feck off. That was the impression I got from La Habrea. But yeah, here we go. So, let's see. No, that's the memories manifesting. Okay, yeah. Yes, the heart of Sabik. The tie that bound Athena's memories to my body, no doubt. When I regained my senses, I found it on my person. Now it appears your efforts have left it bereft of memories. No trace remains of Athena. Brilliant news. However, its power as Aurasight yet remains, and it may prove to be a valuable trove of knowledge in the hands of the right researcher. I feel that fate has left it with me for a reason. I shall take my leave, but on behalf of my colleagues, nay the entire star, I thank you both for putting an end to Athena's wickedness. And then he walks away. And the entire time he's walking away, I'm just going, wait, where are you going? No, come back here. But he goes on to say afterwards when we talk to him. So it's like, welcome back, Wyrm. I hope you said farewell to Themis for me. Recent events have given me not only a new focus for my research, but also an insight into my own origins. Truly, 'tis a gift I will never hope to repay. As La Habrea said, I am not Eric Donios, yet I bear a part of him inside me, and I shall do what I can to follow the traces he has left behind in the present day. A spark has been striking my mind. I am ready to pursue my research with a fervour the likes of which I have not had since my youth. Doubtless I shall have need of you in the days and moons ahead. When that time comes, I only hope that you will once again lend me your sound counsel, rather. Until then, may you fare well. This is the line. A spark has been striking my mind. I am ready to pursue my research with a fervour the likes of I have not seen in my youth. A research fervour was also used to describe Athena, as she descended into her obsession. Claudine is already heavily affected by this damn heart, and we're letting him keep it. This thing is going to cause nothing but trouble. It's already affecting him. Look, he's literally admitted it. It's like, I'd never had this sort of fervor and motivation in my life. This bloody thing is influencing his desires for research. I just see this coming back to us. Like, this was a horrible idea. I don't know why they did this. But I'm not alone in this. Everybody has been saying it. From all the conversations I've been having with people, people are like, why did we let Claudine walk away? Why does he still have it in his pocket? He shouldn't be anywhere near it. That thing should be locked away in lead and stuck on a shelf. Like, Tansy, you're correct. It should be stuck in a library saying do not touch. The thing should be locked away and never heard from again. The thing is freaking dangerous. We know full well what Orosite can do. And this Orosite is already proving to have been a direct threat to the entire star. I mean, Athena almost destroyed the world. And we managed to stop her, all because of this goddamn Heart of Sabik. And yet we're letting this guy keep it when we know full well, and he's already admitted, he's under its influence. And the worst part is, Claudine admits afterwards that he's fully aware, like, with both the Ethereal Sea and the Heart of Sabik to keep my mind occupied, I feel I should never again lack for fascinating discoveries for my work. Yeah, his researchers and his friends like Nevgigi and Rusinov admit that this thing still has a corrupting influence, yet they feel that they're up to the task. These guys are playing with a nuclear weapon and are using a toy tool set to try and take it apart. This thing is going to blow up in their face, I can guarantee you. Whatever reason they did this, it's not going to end well, I guarantee you. This thing's going to end in a very bad way. Yeah, that's the thing as well. The heart, I'm not going to go too much into the heart because I plan to do a video about it. But the heart seems to be older than we know. It seems to likely even predate the ancients. It's extraterrestrial. And we know that the High Seraph Ultima, and they've also speculated that there's a direct connection between the High Seraph and the Heart of Sabik. Because her name is Ultima, and she uses similar magic. And Ultima is extraterrestrial in origin as well. So there's a lot of things tying together all of a sudden. Storylines we thought were long done, like the Evil East storyline, have suddenly come back into the forefront. But I just can't get over this. The fact that we've let Claudine doom himself. And Nemgigi and Rusinov, by bringing in proximity to this goddamn thing, are going to be corrupted as well. They're going to start seeing their own desires getting fueled. And it's going to get worse. Like, if they start passing it around, if they stick it in the middle of a room with a bunch of researchers around it, are they all going to get affected by it? Like, it merely sitting on a table in the middle of the room while the Charlatan scholars go, this is an interesting crystal. They're all getting affected. It's literally kryptonite. I mean, Athena and Ultima had little mini angels in their fight. That's what I'm thinking as well. There is some sort of connection between Ultima and Athena. But it's entirely possible Ultima had a similar crystal in her possession. Like, it's been stated that she's extraterrestrial, but it's possible that it's just the influence that made her what she is that made her extraterrestrial. She might have just been a normal person at the beginning. But that's something I'm still researching. It's like the Ring of Power. Exactly. It's like the Ring of Power. You can't hold on to it. It's freaking plutonium. You can't hold on to it without dying. It's going to turn into hell. Now, the other thing I wanted to cover on the Pandemonium storyline was the first fight. So, P9. P9 was fascinating to me for one primary reason. So, where is the fight? That's the 11th. We're not looking for the 11th. We're looking for the 9th. Yeah. So, when you're fighting in the 9th circle, you have the Mage's Lament, the Martialist Lament, and the Beast Lament. And I haven't done Savage, so I don't know if there's another one actually there. But the fact that this creature was absorbing the souls of so many beings within the Ethereal Sea, and then utilizing their abilities directly. The only one I can definitely identify is the Beast Lament. That's the soul of a behemoth, because it uses a behemoth's abilities. And we do know that a behemoth does go gra and gur. But I found that to be fascinating. The fact that this creature absorbed the souls of others and took on their personality traits directly in order to utilize their own abilities as well. That further ties memory and soul together. I mean, I hope they were okay afterwards. We saw all the souls spill out. He absorbed a lot of souls. But I'm assuming only certain souls suited his purpose in terms of the arts that they used. The mage is an interesting one. I couldn't figure out, like, I was first thinking, because I'd only made the Shitato video, I was like, that couldn't be Shitato, could it? And she's like, death brings me no peace, such is my fate. My strength is without equal. Flames take you. My every breath is laced with magics. Ice bind you. Few can wield such power as mine. I mean, if you look at it from that sort of dialogue, it does kind of sound like Shitato. If you think about it. Because she was a little bit cocky. She did wield arts that were above and beyond anybody else's. But she doesn't really talk like a black mage. But then again, it's not really her. It's this creature using her soul to utilize her abilities. Her soul is just along for the ride. But I always found it interesting. I'd be interested to learn who this is. If they dissipated, wouldn't that just mean their aether goes into natural stuff like flowers and rocks? I think it just returns to the sea and then souls get reborn. I think rebirth is still a thing, just as a different being. The Martialist is... I couldn't really pin down exactly what the Martialist is. Always more killing to be done, and I'm always happy to oblige. Make it fun for me, eh? The first drops are always the sweetest. The first drops are always the sweetest. That's an interesting line, isn't it? The mage comes back. It's like he's booting up different personalities. Disturbed once again, crumble and die. Entertain me, my darlings. It was an interesting fight. I really enjoyed that fight. Yeah, it's like, if you think about physics, energy isn't destroyed. It just transforms into a different form. Like, you have metals, gases, solids. They're constantly changing. Like, gas can become liquid, liquid can become solid, etc., etc. Nothing is ever destroyed, it just changes forms. So, souls must act like the same thing. Could that be Cagnazzo, the Martialist? Always more killing to be done, and I'm happy to oblige. Make it fun for me, eh? The first drops are always the sweetest. I mean, it could be him. He was a battle junkie. Have you googled the name of the boss? It leads to an interesting Wikipedia. I haven't actually. What is the boss's name? Oh, Kyoktos. Okay. So I'm assuming this is a Greek name because most of Pandemonium has been Greek in nature. So Cocytus is what came up to me. Yeah, Cocytus. Okay. Is the river of wailing in the underworld of Greek mythology. Cocytus flows into the river Archeron on the other side of the Hades, the Ultraworld. So yeah, the river Styx contained souls, if I recall from my mythology. So it was constantly swimming with souls, hence his name. So that would make sense from that perspective. If mankind's first hero is the original warrior of light, as referred in Shadowbringers, then does that imply that Azem looks like the original warrior of light? Not necessarily. Although it's an interesting question, isn't it? Like, I mean, granted, from a gameplay perspective, the races change, but from a lore perspective, it seems to be the races are a constant. So it's entirely possible that the look of the Warrior of Darkness is based upon the look of the original Azem, because we know Erichthonios' incarnation looked... Claudine looks very similar to Erichthonios. It's entirely possible that the Warrior of Light that we saw Elizabeth turn into was actually what Azem looked like. It is an interesting thing to think about. That is an interesting theory. So, I like that idea. But yeah, I'm still just... I can't get over this guy. I mean, I just can't help but think, in his goddamn fanny pouch, back here, the heart of Sabik is right here, corrupting this poor guy. Yeah, my SM is female, so that breaks the idea. Exactly, like, there are gameplay and lore changes that have to happen because it's an MMO in the end. If it was a single player game, that'd be different. But lore has to take a back seat for practicality sometimes. Okay. Not really much else I wanted to say about Pandemonium. I pretty much said everything I wanted to about that. Although I did enjoy the story. What I found weird was we haven't seen the exam shard from the 13th. Might be Zero or someone else. It's a good point. It's fair. We do know, sir, a lot of warriors who fought for the light did fight and die. So it's entirely possible that Azem's shard from the 13th was slain. So there's that. It also could have been corrupted. I mean, just because we're Azem's shard, we're not above corruption. So we can turn evil. So I just thought the Warrior of Light boss was Themis as his ancient self. Although now that we've seen Themis as his ancient self, it doesn't really look like him. And we have seen what Themis turns into in terms of his elevated form. Now that the new Pandemonium ring came out. Let's see. Or Zero's mom. Yeah, Zero's mom is a theory I still love. The fact that I still love the theory that the Spectral Necromancer was Zero's mom. I still love that theory. Durandon is another one. Yeah, so I suppose I should go into the main story of 6.4 now, because that's our next logical step. I've a few things to share about this, but I've also some controversy to share. So let me teleport myself to Mare Lamentorum. I haven't actually been to Mare Lamentorum since the end of the main story quest. I was focusing primarily on Pandemonium. So I'm assuming the portal is still there. There's no reason for it not to be. However, I do want to talk to the Watcher to see if his dialogue changed. I know his dialogue did change to state that he was helping to restore the brands. No, his dialogue was reset again. Okay, so during the quest when we were restoring the brands, his dialogue did change. And he was saying that my assistance is mainly helping you restore the brands. Afterwards, I will watch, which is what I've always done. But now his dialogue is reset to pre 6.4, which is the standard dialogue, which is interesting. Let me have a look around here. I want to go to the portal real quick. It's nice having the brands all restored again, isn't it? Is anybody actually stationed out here? So I haven't actually looked around. Well, that's where we were for the original quest. There's the portal. So the portal's static now. It's open, and it's going to remain open. It's not in the middle. It's also not in the middle. That's interesting. I thought it was in the middle, but then again, it would have disrupted this lovely piece of art. So that makes sense. So we have the. I'm assuming I can fly into this. Can I? No, I can't. Okay. I'm also assuming there's no way back. I can't go back to... No, I can't, can I? I can't go back to that stage. Happily, I took loads of footage and I took loads of pictures while I was there. But yeah, my point is, in regards to Zero Mus's rise, so I want to discuss that as well. So, Zero Mus. So I really wanted to discuss this as well in terms of his storyline and what we can expect. So, when we saw Zero Mus rise, and then Zero went on the attack just to go try and turn him into a crystal, as we noted, the attacks just bounced off him. But at the same time, the crystal that she picked up from the gravesite fell out of her pocket and fell into Zeromus. So Zeromus absorbed that. But that's what's going to be our saving grace, more than likely. The fact that the original Golbez's soul has been absorbed by Zeromus. It's likely going to have some sort of influence on what Zeromus is going to act like. But I think the fact that we actually learned that Golbez is not actually Golbez at all. Golbez is actually Durandan was something very interesting. But I quickly want to go over Zeromus's lore real quick. Oh, the music has stopped. Let me change the music. Give me a second. There is another one here. There we go. Okay, so Zeromus appears from within the core of the red moon, which is exactly what our Zeromus did, and the moon on the 13th is red. After Fusosa and Golbez killed Zemus, Zeromus materializes out of his corpse and attacks them, wounding Cecil and his allies. Golbez and Fusoa cast a legendary meteor, but Zeromus is incorporeal and their attacks do nothing. Now the change for us is Zero went on the attack to try and end this, but our attacks didn't do anything. Golbez attempts to use a crystal to render Zeromus vulnerable, but as Golbez is tainted in darkness, him using the crystal is pointless. Now this doesn't happen to us, there is naturally some changes. Zeromus casts his own meteor, knocking down Fusoa, Golbez and the party, driving them all to 1 HP. With seemingly no one left to stand against Zeromus, Palam and Porum on Earth sense Cecil is in danger. The Elder of Mysidia leads Cecil's allies in prayer to send strength to them, giving him and his allies the power to stand again. This is the interesting dialogue for me. So, Palam and Porum are two important characters in the story, but I can't help but think that Palam and Porum sending their energy to our party in order to beat Zeromus and overcome its defenses makes me think that, well, we already know that we're going to be going to the first again in order to wield the power of light against the shield of darkness. So the sword of light to come down on the shield of darkness. So we're going back to the first, which is brilliant because we are wanting them to go back to the first with this main story, because Unakalhai and let me see, where is it? Yeah, Unakalhai and Tainor have been sitting on the sidelines for too long. These are two individuals who have the ability to open void gates on their own accord. So it's entirely possible. What I think is going to happen is we're going to go back to the first. We're going to explain the situation to them. Zeromus has risen. We need the power of light from the first in order to overcome his defenses. So what I could see happening is Tainor and Unakalhai will open a void gate on the first and start channeling the power of the first directly into the void. Like a giant beam. They're opening a gate and shooting a beam through it, which hits Zeromus and takes down his defenses, giving us time in order to defeat Zeromus. That's what I think is going to happen. So a slight play on what actually happens with the Zeromus in FF4. Unakalhai is considered to be a champion of the light. Not a warrior of light, but he's considered to be one of the last champions that his world had. So, specifically from his lore here. Unakalhai was born on the 13th reflection of the Source, the world that became known as the Void. Despite being gifted with the Echo, he was barely more than a child when the world ended, and was unable to stop the flood of darkness from transforming his world. So he is blessed with the Echo, which many people consider to be something of greatness, but his world was already long towards falling to darkness by that point. He was only a child, he couldn't do that. So that's who Unakalhai is. He could grow into something like that, but we know characters in FF14 don't grow. So he's stuck as a 13-year-old. The void quest being locked behind the roll quest might be a problem. That's the thing. So that's the only thing I can think of is the problem is they're segregated by these quests. This is something they need to address. They need to retcon this to allow Unakalhai and Daenor to get involved. So they need to figure that out. But I think that's what's going to happen. What if doing that equalizes light on the first and restores the 13th as something salvageable? Boom, 7.0. That's entirely possible as well. Us channeling the light. That's a good idea. Think about it like this. We open a void gate from the 1st to the 13th. We start channeling the power of light from the 1st into the 13th. The two powers clash, the darkness is banished, or equilibrium starts to restore itself on the 13th, and it starts returning to something of a normalcy. But at the same time, the last corrupting influences of the light on the 1st are drained away because it's all spilling into the 13th, and that causes the 1st to start to go into more of a restoration that it was already starting to go into. Because even though we did a lot of work in the empty, it is still a world awash with light. So us taking a lot of that light from the 1st and channeling into the 13th could actually restore both worlds. It's interesting to think about, isn't it? Do you think we will get a Miser grade statues again, like Omega Ultimate and such? Miser grade statues? I don't know. Wait, what are Miser grade statues? I must be thinking of something different. Miser grade statues. I must be thinking of something weird. Oh, you're talking about the figures that come with the collector's edition. I think we're already getting one, aren't we? Doesn't the collector's edition, or no, we haven't gotten an announcement. I think we're gonna get some sort of statue with the next expansion. Yeah, I think it's a foregone conclusion that we will. What it is gonna be a question. I think it's gonna be Hydaelyn. I think we'll get a Hydaelyn, to be perfectly honest. If I had to guess, it would definitely be a Hydaelyn. And Xenos is also a good one as well. Oh, that's new. That wasn't there before. So that's the name of the Void Gate, is it? Oh, that must be the zone inside, isn't it? That must be what the zone inside is called, is it? Valles Vulnerus. I need to look that up, actually. Valles Vulnerus. Oh, it's not. Okay, that's always been there. Okay, never mind. I must be going crazy. I thought that was new, because it's kind of off the map. Interesting. I suppose now is a good time to talk about... But why not get one of either the Endwalker raids, like 1 to 12? Well, we're not going to have to wait long to find out. I mean, FanFest is in July, so we're going to see what the new expansion is. But we're also going to see what sort of statue we get, I assume. But yeah, on the story here, what did I want to talk about next? That's right. A lot of people are of the opinion, and I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this in a lot of social circles, that they feel that this plot with Golbez, the Void, 13th, and rescuing Asdaya has dragged on for too long. I can honestly see where they're coming from, because we're used to having an expansion, then 3 patches to spell out that expansion storyline, and then we move on to the storyline of the next expansion. And it would usually be 4 months between patches, so it's a year of patches spelling out the end of that expansion story, so we get a couple of years of content out of it. With this particular content, it's different, because there's 6 months between patches. So that means that at this point, between the release of, well, 6.1 was our new beginning, so we started on the path. 6.2 was the void. 6.3 was more of the void. 6.4 is where we are now. So 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4. That's a year and a half. So this storyline that we've been playing around with right now, that's not even done, has been going on for a year and a half. That is a lot of time to spell out one storyline. If you think about how fast this storyline has been moving in the actual sense of 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, it doesn't feel like it's a long time. But when you actually look at that in real world time, a year and a half to spell out a story like this, that seems rather straightforward, but isn't even finished yet, is interesting, isn't it? Like, it makes you think that this has been dragging out for far too long. I'm honestly, I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree that this is spelled out for far too long. I was expecting, to be honest, I was expecting to face Golbez in this patch and finish him off, and then for 6.5 to spell out what the next expansion is going to be. But what that looks like is 6.5 is going to be us returning to the void again, facing Zeromus, defeating Zeromus, more than likely, and whatever consequence of defeating him or winning or losing, or whatever's going to happen, is going to launch us into the next expansion. Because 6.5 is usually the final one that gets us to go like, alright, this is setting the full stage. The stage is all set. Time for the expansion. We get patches afterwards, like 6.55, 5.6. But it's mainly that one that will spell out this expansion for us. That's the leapfrog moment. So, thinking about it in that terms, yeah, it has dragged out. We've been trying to rescue Ajdaya and waiting to face Golbez for a year and a half. And we faced him. We defeated him. He got back up and did a reverse Uno on us, and now we have Zeromus to deal with, which is going to be our final extreme fight. But at the same time, you're just going, it is a long-winded story. If you think about it in those terms, it is long-winded. So I can agree with some people getting a bit jaded, just going, I'm sick of this storyline. Can we move on, please? And I guess it does make sense from a certain perspective, because people are used to, as I said, for the 0.4 and 0.5 patches to be spelling out the next expansion. As of right now, we don't even know where the next expansion is going. We don't have a name for it. We're going to have a name for it very soon. But usually we get some hints about what's going to happen. Now that leads me on to my next topic. It's been a patch of drops, as somebody said. They've been hot dropping hints and tips regarding where we're going to be going and what we're going to be doing in the next expansion. So one of the main things, so we saw the first one, I think, was Kryl in the Baldessian Arsenal, when she looks at a letter and she's like, that's an interesting letter, I wonder what it is. No, I need to stay focused on what I'm doing. And she doesn't open it. So I'm assuming that letter is going to lead us into the next expansion. I have a picture of the letter here. Where's the letter? I had the letter here. Where is it? Come on, screenshots. There we go. Oh, I didn't delete. No, I didn't delete them. Or maybe it's just... Damn it. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So we had a couple of things to talk about first. So the first one was... yeah, we had Thancred. That was the first hint. Well, that was the second hint. So somebody's hiring Archons. Specifically Archons. And Archons aren't like a dime a dozen. Hiring a Charlene Scholar I can understand. Hiring an Archon is something specific. So, who knows where this is leading, and we don't even know who's hiring him. Yeah, I went into the Baldessian Arsenal right now as well, and Grahatia is there going, interesting. I don't think he's reading the letter though, because the letter is still under the books. But I have the letter here. Where the hell did I leave it? It's around. There we go. Yeah, there's the letter. So, this is the thing that's causing all the drama at the moment. This freaking letter that's sitting right there under the books, and she's not reading it. So, I spent a couple of hours looking at the picture and exploring different elements of FF14, trying to track down exactly what this was. I couldn't find a match to these iconography. It looks like a language, doesn't it? But I'm just going to call it iconography because it does kind of look like icons as well. And it's bound around this letter part, which is interesting. And then you have Erevin. Erevin was the first one. He's going home. So I'm assuming the forest where his tribe lived. So that might be one of the next places we're going. You're betting that Erenville will be promoted to a main character in the next expansion. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? If he was promoted like that. But I think Kryl is going to be promoted in some way as well, I hope. Well, she is a main character. But I want her to take more of a stand, which I think she's going to. But yeah, I looked everywhere to see if there was any mention of this or any reference to this. So I looked at Mericidia, nothing, the symbols were different. New World, we all know almost nothing about. I looked at all the Mamulja, couldn't find a reference to them either. So this thing is very mysterious. I don't know where this thing came from. Alright, Wyvern, I want to have a look at this with you because I went into the Arsenal last night and only Graha was there standing by the table going, interesting. So I didn't see Kryl. Unless she's walking around here, is she? Unless she ends up popping in. So I want to see that actually. You've piqued my interest now. Yeah, we have so many places to visit, so many places to explore. There's so many places in lore that we can't see. Kryl's back. Okay, so the last time I was here, Graha was here. She's like, what do we have here? Yeah, the letter's still there. But she's like, what do we have here? What do you have here, my dear? Wait, can we read that? I got close. Oh. Oh. Hello. Wait. What did he say? Wait. Damn it. What did he say? He didn't say anything. Or I was too far away to hear him. Is somebody going to come in? Alright, what do we have here? Alright, I'm assuming she's going to come back in. But yeah, I want to read this. Because if I can get close enough to this, it's almost legible. Will you... Oh, I hate yours in language. It's just so hard to read. Yeah, I have event text open, but when you have dialogue like this, is only appearing as chat bubbles. It doesn't appear in the event text, which is annoying. Unless I have something that's not selected. Let me double check. Let me see. Chat. No, it's not chat, is it? I don't know. Announcement? No. NPC dialogue, NPC dialogues, announcements. No. I'm assuming she's gonna come back in. I was also looking at this. So I caught myself glancing at the map and looking at the different locations. So you have a note around here. You have a note off the coast well, the south of Alamigo. One to the west of Wildbrand, so the New World's over here. And then you have one to the west of Garlemald. Makes me wonder exactly what those notes are. I couldn't make them out, they're too illegible. I haven't missed that yet. Okay. Aaronvale just randomly being a good friend of Kryle's after all this time. Convenient, isn't it? Kryle, my dear, what are you looking at? I need to, like, it's almost legible. Like, if I could properly read the symbols of Eorzean language. Oh, damn it. Can I at least see who signed it? Oh, it's just, it's so illegible. Excuse me, my dear. Am I standing on her head? Jesus Christ. Ah! Dang it. I can't make it out. Oh, G-pose is a good point. Yeah. Let me try G-pose. Zoom in. Hey, I can't zoom in, can I? Or can I? Oh, I can I? Yeah. Ooh, okay. Oh god, it blurs out though. Okay. it severely pixelates when I try to zoom into it. It's almost easier to read it like that. I can't make it out. I'm sure somebody can. But... oh, I just feel like there's a hint right here. It's staring us in the face. I'm frustrated now. The fact that I can't read the goddamn thing. I'm trying to make out the name. The name should mean something. No. I can't do it. It's too pixelated. Okay, nothing's happening in here. Something did happen. I'm going back out and we'll go back in. Because the last time I was here, it was Graha. So if I go out and go back in, is Graha going to be standing here? Yeah, see, look, there's Graha. Okay. Fascinating. What is fascinating, my guy? I want answers. What are you reading? Wait. Oh, he does interact. Cool. I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool. That's a nice little egg. I like that. Kryle didn't interact with us like this. Oh, that's so cool. That's nice. That's a nice little thing. Like, they don't have to do stuff like this, but they do it. It's just amazing. I love this game. When they do little stuff like that, it's just perfect. I kind of want to do it again now. So if I pop back out and pop back in, my Kryle's back. What do we have here? Now I'm assuming she's going to come in now. Now that I've reset it. So now I want to hear what she says. Or see what... yeah, here she is. Okay. What is it? Why not take a short break? I'll be happy to assist afterwards. Just a little bit longer. Come on, look at the letter. I'm so frustrated. I want to know what it is. But yeah, this and a number of other hints have been dropping in this patch. Nobody's made heads or tails about exactly what they are. They've been far too cryptic, far too generic to tell us exactly what it is and where we're going. But for some reason I have a feeling it's on the wall. I need to find out an older picture of this, because I know this thing had stickers on it, or it had paper stuck to it anyway. Always has. But I'm curious if this image has actually changed. So let me FFXIV Bell Decian Arsenal. Okay. Map. No. Oh, it's showing me the bloody. It's the annex, not the. Decian Annex. Okay. Annex map. Nope. Alright, I can't find one. I'll have to research this to see if this map has actually changed. But I'll be interested to see if these are actually different. Pointing, perhaps, to something. Or actually, let's do something now. Let's open up, because this is a world map, okay. But it's not translated for us. So, let me open my translated world map and see what these locations correspond to and why they're specifically stuck at these locations. So let me go to video images, maps, open up, Ethereus, where's my Ethereus map? Eorzea. Oh, that's wrong. Well, it is right, but I wanted that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Alright, so if we look at the game map, first one is here, off the coast. Or near the coast, rather. Yeah, I hate these clouds as well. I'm sick of these clouds. We need an updated map for 7.0. If we don't get an updated map, I'm going to lose my shit. Because I'm sick of these clouds. Everybody around me is sick of these clouds. Like, who's this guy? I want to know who he is. I want to know what these floating islands are. I want to know what's in here. I want to know what the landmass actually looks like. We can't. I'm done. I'd rant about that all day if I could. So the first one's over here. So we have a... I'm assuming that's supposed to be a Guardian airship on the map. But there is islands here, so there's not really much to say. There's freaking cloud cover over it. So that's fine. The next one is off the coast, the southern coast of Alamigo. These islands are largely unexplored, and this portion of the map is largely unexplored as well. So that portion of the map, if you look here, so Pagalthan is the place we've seen, only in a dungeon, but we haven't seen this section of the map, and we haven't seen these islands. So these could be potentially places we could be going. They are on the list. I didn't add them to my video when I did the list, but these are also places that we could be going. They could mean something. I'll need to do some research on them though. If you're ever wondering where Mach was located, it's right around here. That's where Mach was. Very close to Limsa, which is why Nim was usually their first target. Okay, what's the other place? So we have one just off the western coast of Wyrm, and then you have one south of Dalmasca, which is not Nagzia. Well, let's have a look at that one first. So we do know that Gangos is down here. But the map is specifically stating somewhere around here. And according to the map, there's nothing there. It could be something that's going to get retconned, and we'll finally get an answer as to what the hell is here. Because I'm assuming there is something. It's not just Dalmasca and then it's just all Dalmasca. There has to be something here. It is very flat. And the last one is over here. But let's not forget that the new world is over this way. Valbrand is usually a jumping off point when you're going to the new world. that Mordona region map has a lot of room to add stuff. It's true. Like, Mordona is a very large region. You have Silvertear Falls up the north. You have the Saltmoor over here. The Cardinal Flats is a very big area, decimated, unfortunately. But you do have this section in the middle, and then you have this section here. Like, the Black Shroud is usually here. Well, you have this section here, and this section here. So, there's a lot of places in our own Eorzea that we have not seen. Like, people keep saying we need to see what the rest of the world has to offer. But of our little Eorzea, we haven't even seen everything. We haven't seen the mountains here, where I think warriors are actually from, or it might be over here. And then there's the Far Reach. The Saltmoor is largely unexplored by us as well, as you've already said. There's parts of Mordona we haven't seen. Then you have this entire section of Eorzea which we haven't seen. There's so much that we haven't seen, and I want to see it. And then you have the land bridge connection between Ilsabard and Aldenard, which is apparently rough mountains, but I'd love to see it as well. Yeah, I'm assuming nothing's changed here again. But yeah, I quickly wanted to point those out because the patch has been dropping a lot of hints regarding the future, but very subtle hints. Isn't that place south of Dalmasca where the lighthouse is? The one in the second Evil East raid? I'm not entirely certain actually where the lighthouse is. I would have assumed the lighthouse was actually... I'm not sure where the lighthouse is actually. Let me look that up actually. Ridorana Lighthouse. I don't think we've ever gotten an explanation to where it is. South of Rabanastre, in a remote corner of the Valdnart Sea. So, south of Rabanastre. So, that's Rabanastre. In a remote corner of the Valdnart Sea. Now, the Valdnart Sea doesn't have a name. I'm going to assume it's this is the Valdnart Sea. So if I was going to venture a guess as to where the island was, in a remote corner, I'm going to assume it's here. I'm going to assume the lighthouse is here. Because further south is Mericidia. So you've got these islands and then you got Mericidia down south. Oh, I can't wait for Mericidia. Mericidia, I think, is definitely on the cards. If they don't give us Mericidia, I think people will flip out. I'll flip out. But I think, judging by what we've seen, Mericidia, I think, is the most likely candidate. For all we know, that letter that is sitting on Kryle's desk right now is from Mericidia. But we only have certain references to Mericidia. And none of them matched up. I'll show you right now, actually, while we're here. There is Azazla I want to talk about as well. Because when I was doing the Pandemonium raid series, and I learned that the Pandemonium that appeared in the Ethereal Sea is actually a section of the Etherochemical Research Facility. I'm like, wait, what? Because I was literally here a few minutes before that, and I'm like, a section of this thing disappeared. Yeah, Tiamat is going home to save her brood, exactly. I really wish she got involved. I would have loved Thrace Ralgar and Tiamat to get involved in the main story, as we see it, but she has her own expansions to look forward to, I'm sure. Thrace Ralgar already got his. Vitra has his now. And I'm assuming, hoping, we get Ashdaya back. It was curious as well that Ashdaya felt like very little time had passed. She was surprised to see Vitra with mortals. So it makes me think, how much time does she actually think has passed? Now, I flew around here just going, Alright, a section of the ethereal-chemical research facility disappeared. Did some change happen here? I looked around and I didn't see any change to the research facility or the flagship. So as far as I'm concerned, this thing hasn't changed at all. The ships are still docked to the side of it. I'm going to assume this is a Ragnarok class internment hulk, judging by the size. We never got an explanation about what this extra ship was, but I think the only explanation is a Ragnarok class internment hulk. But the only piece of Mericidia we have access to in the game at the moment is eventually down here. So Azizla is like a trophy case for Alag. Now this section here, as you know, it looks very different. It looks very old because this is actually a piece of Mericidia. So they lifted a cathedral and ruins from Mericidia, a landmass directly from Mericidia itself, and brought it to, or attached it to Azizla, and Azizla travels around. But they took it as a trophy. So it's likely the Centaur race actually used this as a place of worship. But I looked around it as well to see if there was any hint to tie Mericidia to that letter or anything else. There is some writing on the ruins itself. And while they do have little similarities, they don't match the letter. So I don't think it's anything to do with them at the moment. But I think we're about to start seeing more of this very soon. I often wondered about this spike as well. I think this spike is actually what's keeping the entire thing elevated. So I think they drove it into the middle. They caved the thing in the process. Because if you note from this actual island when you fly underneath it, it doesn't have a levitation ring like the other islands do. If you look at the other land masses, like this one over here, they all have levitation rings. This Mericidian rock doesn't have a levitation ring. So I'm assuming it's being kept up by this spike. But yeah, that's a different story for a different day. But I did look around the research facility. I didn't see any changes, no map changes or anything else. And it is side story quest related, so I wasn't expecting anything to change, to be perfectly honest. But it does spark my curiosity to think how much of that facility actually disappeared when Athena did what she did. I guess we'll never know though. But I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Unless anybody else has any other questions. Although I really quickly will point out, I do love the new raid format. So, let me take a drink real quick. As most of you know with the patch notes, one of the primary changes to most of the jobs in FF14 was the range of their abilities, particularly the buffs. So like the stances, player buffs and stuff like that. Their YAM range was doubled from 15 to 30. That range of 30 gives them a very broad scope over the entire arena. And as we noted from the new Pandemonium Raid series, the arena's actually got a certain overhaul. So, for example, I think it's the 10th? Yeah, the 10th fight has a very unique arena where there's a square, then there's a liquid kind of river in between, and then there's two platforms at the side. That's a very elaborate arena for a raid. We haven't got a raid like that in a long time. I think Leviathan was the last one that actually looked something like that, but it started off as a square. But I think the buffs make sense in terms of them actually changing how they're designing fights in raids, because if you're going to design a raid like that, where the groups and the players are going to be spread out very long distance because of mechanics, it makes sense that their abilities are actually doubled in range to account for that. So I just found that interesting. I haven't done Savage yet, so I haven't seen much of that fight, but I look forward to seeing a bit more of it. But I did find that arena very interesting, and I also found the 11th very interesting as well, because the 11th was the convocation seat. So I'm assuming I can't explore it, can I? If I go into Explorer mode, I'm assuming I can't go into Pandemonium, right? Yeah, I can't go into Pandemonium, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'll have to take some pictures sometime. But I noticed all the convocation seats, Amaroth in the daytime, and it was a huge arena. Like, that arena was gigantic. So I really enjoyed that arena as well. But also just having the lore of Amaroth again was brilliant. It reminds me I need to go in and count the seats. I'm assuming there's 14 seats there, but I wanted to count them just in case. But I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. So unless anybody has any questions, I think we can just finish off there. Let me see if there's anything else I forgot about. Yeah, no, it's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. There's not really much else to say. I plan to do everything else in the videos that I'm actually making. As I said, I'm actually scripting one at the moment, which is on the subject of 6.4. And as you know, I now only make videos that'll stand the test of time. So that's what this video is going to be about as well. I have a random question. That pre-blasphemy in Garabanian Roll Quest. I thought the Blasphemy's Aether is destroyed. How were the souls intact after you say goodbye and after the end of the quest line? That pre-blasphemy in Garabanian Roll Quest. I'm assuming that's the caster story roll quest, isn't it? I thought a Blasphemy's Aether is destroyed. How are their souls intact after they say goodbye after the end of the quest line? Yeah, that's the thing. Blasphemies are supposedly now empty beings because their Aether and their soul is entirely used up in the process. Were their souls intact? I don't remember that. Don't mind my apartment. I actually just switched servers, so my apartment's not done yet. I'm still working on it. Roll. Oh no, it's too late. We're looking for magical rain. No, that's not it. Physical rain. No, that's not it either. It's healer, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Oh. Silly. How are their souls intact after they say goodbye after the end of the quest line? It might have just been their soul dissipating. I'll need to go back to you on that, because I don't remember a goodbye, to be perfectly honest, but I want to have a look just to sate my own curiosity. Right, there he is. Coward. Coward. Better dead, better forgotten. I like Fort Dole's character now. Oh no, yeah. I remember this part now. Boom. If I recall, the Blasphemy was able to say goodbye. So it might have been the last rites of their soul before their soul dissipated. I'm assuming their soul would go into oblivion afterwards because of what a blasphemy is. Elevated forms. Does it function like incarnate summoning, or is it just an excuse to have a cool boss fight? Now, as we know, a lot of characters are capable of elevated forms. Eric Dunios, even somebody who lacked a lot of Aether abilities, was able to have an elevated form as well. We saw Hermes do it, we saw Themis do it. We saw MSL do it in the end as well. He turned into a massive one. Does it function like incarnate summoning, or is it an excuse to have a good fight? I think it's both. It's their ability to use Aether to change their form, but then change back. It's like a pseudo summon, just changing their actual form. But we have seen Amarotians sacrifice their body and soul in order to turn into primal beings. We saw one in Amarot sacrifice himself in order to turn into Quetzalcoatl. I think it's both, Will, to be perfectly honest. It's an excuse for a good boss fight, but it's also... it seems to be an inherent ability throughout many of the ancient Amarotians to have the ability to transform into something like that. It makes me wonder what Vana would have transformed into. I'm assuming she would have had a similar ability. What would she transform into? And it makes you wonder, based on the question we had earlier, what would a Zem transform into? The first warrior of light, perhaps? Because it feels like a thing summoners should have that power. It does make sense. Like, I think that's the next stage for summoners, if you think about it. Because summoners are getting more and more elaborate with their summons. I think the next logical step is the ability to actually take on an aspected form, using an Eggy to empower themselves. Because you do see kind of elements of that with taking on the wings and stuff like that. So, now that we can summon the likes of Titan, Garuda and Ifrit, taking on their physical forms and having that as a combat form would make sense for a summoner in the future. Alright, we didn't see anything there, but I'm assuming it's the third one. Down you go. And now he dissipates, I'm assuming. Okay. So he didn't physically turn up. I think this is like some sort of echo experience. I think that's her resonant gift actually showing her what's happening, because this didn't happen with the others, I don't think. And she's seeing 3 different souls there. I think that's something to do with her resonant ability. Or it's just a way of us showing us a cool way of showing closure. I think that's her just imagining to herself, praying to her friends. I don't think they turned up. I think it's just probably something with the resonance, maybe. That's the only explanation I can think of. Because it would fit with FF... That's a good point. Final Fantasy 16 is based around people being able to take on aspected forms like Ifrit, turning into Ifrit. That is a very good way of thinking about it. If that found its way into FF14, that would be great. Those were his friends in the quest. Yeah, that's correct. But I think what happened is her just seeing... I think that was in our mind's eye more than anything. But it might have been the Aether giving her a resonant experience, being able to see it. Because we didn't clutch our heads seeing anything with the Echo. So it wasn't an Echo experience. But it might have been something unique to her due to her connection with the person itself. For Dole, I like this scene. You know, I'm really glad that she got a good ending. I want to see her again. I really do. She's a dark character, but also a lot of life in her. So, I really want to see that again. But yeah, I think that's pretty much... Why is my apartment doing that whenever I turn out? My house didn't do that. I still need to finish my design anyway, so... I'm not really happy with where I'm going. So, I'll need to fix that. But anyway, I think I'm going to leave that there. I think that's pretty much everything we wanted to go through. As usual, I'm going to clip this up and turn it into a stream recap. and I'm going to be going somewhere tomorrow. But I'm going to be doing my script, or I've pretty much finished the script for my video. I want to polish it off. I usually rewrite the script for a video like 3 or 4 times. The way the writers make me love absolutely unrepentant people like Suyu. I know. Suyu is... Oh, she's an interesting character, isn't it? Like, if you've ever been to FanFest or any other fan event, the amount of people who have people cosplaying as Suyu step on them is always interesting. Like, that's the only thing, that's the thing that sticks into people's minds, is her stepping on people. And I've had friends physically lie down in front of cosplayers playing her and get stepped on. It's funny. I like it. But yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna call it there. Everybody, I wish you a very happy Friday. It's Friday night now, actually, and I hope you have a very restful weekend. And I'm gonna keep exploring everything about this patch. I've been exploring as much as I can, getting bogged down with a number of different topics, but I hope to actually unravel a lot more as the patch weighs on. But it also makes me realize that we have months ahead of us until we can actually resolve the storyline. So if you think about it now, back to my earlier topic regarding timelines, it'll be just about 2 years to unravel Golbez's storyline. That's 4 patches, 2 years. If you think about it, 2 years for 4 patches, it's such a long time. Like, I think people are just feeling it now, that it's just taking too long. And a lot of people would blame 16 because the developers have been busy with that as well. I don't think it's fair, but it's also reasonable, I guess. But 16 is done now, so the only thing they have to do is patches and expansions, which are probably already well underway. So we'll see. But anyway, everybody, thank you very much, and I wish you a very good night, and yeah, enjoy everything else that this patch has to offer. Best of luck.